United States of America is probably the freest country in the world, partly thanks to the document declaring its freedom from its overlord in the 18th century, Great Britain. The Declaration of Independence was the document that inspired many people to fight for freedom all over the world, and it broke barriers by being the first document ever where one country voluntarily declared independence from another, and not because of a treaty after a rebellion or a war. Colonial America was a hard place to live during the mid-1770s, and the Second Continental Congress had to make sure that they chose the right man to write this document. In the end, one man was chosen by the Congress to write the Declaration. His name was Thomas Jefferson. Thomas Jefferson was born on April 13, 1743 in Shadwell, Virginia. Growing up in a well-educated part of the 13 American colonies and being well-educated himself, Jefferson settled on law for his occupation and was admitted to the Virginia bar in 1767. He married Martha Wales Skelton in 1772 and had 6 children with her, 2 of whom survived to adulthood. At that point, Jefferson and other colonists were going through hard times. For nearly the past decade, the King of Britain, King George III, had been taxing America to try to get them to help pay for the French and Indian War in the late 1750s and early 1760s, as the war had mostly been fought in North America. The colonies, however, claimed that the taxing was taxation without representation, and America claimed that it had paid by helping Britain and giving supplies and lives to the war. From 1764 onwards, America slowly started to rise up against Britain, culminating in the battles of Lexington and Concord in 1775 that began the American Revolution. Soon after, the Second Continental Congress was formed to function as a de facto national government. A year later, the Congress began debating about American independence, and on June 7, 1776, Delegate Richard Henry Lee passed a resolution calling for independence. As soon as the Congress adopted Lee's resolution, a committee of delegates to draft the Declaration of Independence had to be chosen. The Congress chose John Adams, Thomas Jefferson, Benjamin Franklin, Roger Sherman, and Robert Livingston to be on the committee, with Jefferson as the head due to him being chosen as the main writer of the document's first draft, as he was known as a skilled writer. Due to the busy schedule of the Second Continental Congress, Jefferson only had 17 days to write the first draft. From the day he started writing the draft, Jefferson had many goals for the new country, taking inspiration from ancient Greece and the Roman Republic. He wanted to make sure that America would not go the same way as Britain, and he established early on in his writing that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Jefferson wanted to make sure that America would be a free country that taxed nobody without representation. Another thing he wanted to make sure of was that when King George saw the Declaration of Independence, he would read about many things he had done wrong regarding his American colonies that had caused the American Revolution to start and America to declare independence. Jefferson had written quite a bit about his hatred of King George abusing his power, and a bit of his sentiment against Britain was cut out in the debates. In the final draft, the king's abuse of power was summed up in 27 grievances, all regarding the violation of America's freedom in various ways.
Quotation from Jefferson, and it's an interesting one. It's when he's talking about the Declaration of Independence as he's designing a reading list at the University of Virginia. Gary and I used to do this together. We used to teach a course, the famous 701. And that reading list included the Declaration, of course. I didn't write it, the American people wrote it. I'm just channeling
really
it.
Believe that?
No, well, he channeled the American people. Anyway, he said, what is the Declaration? We want Jefferson's simple definition of what the Declaration is all about. He says, it's the fundamental act of union of these states. He says the Declaration gave us union.
Another goal of Jefferson's was that he wanted to ensure the unity of the 13 colonies once America actually became a country. He knew that America already had a small chance of winning the Revolutionary War, as the colony's only major victory so far had been at the Battle of Concord. For Jefferson, Unity among the colonies was the key to increasing the chances of winning the war against Britain, even if the chances only increased a little bit. A unified country would be stronger than a disunified country, and many colonists wanted America to be strong enough to defeat Britain. The first draft of the Declaration of Independence was finished on time, and on June 28, 1776, the Committee of Five brought the draft to Independence Hall for the other delegates to review and make changes. The next 4 days were spent going over the document, and many delegates had some changes they wanted to make to the Declaration of Independence. Jefferson was very overwhelmed during those days, but the rest of the drafting committee, particularly Ben Franklin, helped him through the process. On July 2nd, the resolution for independence that had been proposed nearly a month earlier was formally approved. During this time, 2 other committees were created to draft and review 2 other smaller documents that would outline America's government and relationships with foreign nations, one of which would become the Articles of Confederation, America's governing document from 1781 to 1789. Until the Articles were ratified, the Second Continental Congress would serve as the new country's provisional government. After everything had been reviewed and nearly a fourth of the first draft of the Declaration of Independence had been removed, the final draft was approved and signed by the Congress on July 4th before being sent off to printers for it to be published. The United States was now an independent country, and if she lost the war, everyone who signed the Declaration would probably be sentenced to death by the king for treason. As the Revolutionary War went on, the tides began to turn for the United States as France and Spain joined the war on the side of the Americans. In the end, the Patriots ended up winning the war, and it officially ended in 1783. There would be another smaller war with Britain in the early 1800s, but from World War I onwards, the US and Britain had been close allies. While the United States was slowly becoming the superpower it is today, many other countries took inspiration from the Declaration of Independence for their own independence movements, government compositions, and treaties. With the United States Constitution, Poland's attempt at reforming with its own constitution, and the Treaty of Versailles that ended World War I as examples of these documents. As for Thomas Jefferson, the Declaration of Independence was only the beginning of his great accomplishments. He went on to become one of the first ministers to France, the first Secretary of State, the second Vice President, the third President of the United States, and the founder of the University of Virginia before his death on the 50th anniversary of the signing of the Declaration of Independence in 1826. Despite all of his accomplishments, both Jefferson and the general public regarded the Declaration of Independence as one of his greatest accomplishments. Jefferson wasn't the only person impacted either. Everyone who believed in the American cause, from young children to average farmers to the founding fathers, were ready to give their lives for the cause, and there were still veterans of the American Revolution alive 90 years after it began. Even today, the message of the Declaration of Independence resides with every American. Everyone who lives in America is working to keep it free. Immigrants come to America because they believe in the message that was put forth in the Declaration of Independence. Modern politicians, regardless of their particular parties or platforms, put freedom first. If not for the courage, hope, and willingness to sacrifice of Thomas Jefferson and the other founding fathers, the Declaration of Independence, the first document where one country voluntarily declared independence from another, may not have existed. If not for the perseverance of the delegates of the Second Continental Congress and the huge barrier they broke in the process, the United States, along with many other modern countries, probably would not exist today. Thank you for watching.